More coffee, Mr. Bjorklund?" "Ja, Charlie." Haaken held up his cup. "Manja tak." Over the top of the cup he caught Mrs. Landsverk looking his way. He raised the now full cup in a toast of gratitude and returned to his plate. He knew if he didn't hurry, he wouldn't get enough to fill his belly before they returned to the woods. As the men finished eating, the noise level rose accordingly. Curses split the air over at the next table, causing everyone else to stop talking and listen. Not again. Haaken dropped his knife and fork and turned to see who'd started the commotion. But he knew without looking. Swede and Jacob were at it again. Haaken got to his feet, cut his way between the stomping and cheering men the fight had drawn, and exited the building through the door nearest the kitchen. The shoveled path led to the outhouse. At least out here he wouldn't be forced to break up another fight. Just because he stood half a head above most of the men and could reach farther than any of them, he'd been deemed the peacemaker. He wore a cut lip to prove it. Once he'd finished his business, he returned to the cook shack porch and drew his letter from his pocket. "My dear Haaken," his mother wrote, "I hope and pray this letter finds its way to your hands, and that you are well. Your far and I watched the mail for a message from you, but so long now we have been disappointed." Haaken sighed. He hated writing letters. What could he say to them? How many trees were cut and who beat whom in cards, and that 2 men were caught by a tree that fell wrong? One died and the other wished he had. Life in the North Woods took all a man had to give and then bled him again. "I pray that you have found a church where you can hear God's holy word and draw near to the foot of the cross." His Moor had no idea how far and wide this land of America stretched, and how many were the miles between towns. No minister came to this logging camp or to the mill down river, and the farm where he worked one summer lay 10 miles from the nearest town. No, a church he hadn't seen for more than a year or 2. After giving him the news of the family at home, she continued, "You remember your cousins twice removed, Roald and Carl. Both of them died in the terrible blizzard and flu epidemic last winter in Dakota Territory. I would have told you sooner, but I just learned of the dreadful tragedy myself. I believe you could be of help to their families and perhaps could spend Christmas at their farm. You are the closest family to those poor grieving widows who are so young to suffer like this. I know they would be beholden." Haaken swung his arms to warm himself. He shook his head. Moore talked like he could ski right over to the cousins' houses and help them do the chores of an evening. He checked the date at the top of the precious paper. Sure enough, early November.